People were hearing from him on a new platform, but his message hasn't changed. That's the latest. I'm Tyreek Wayne on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Staples Holiday Deals mean amazing savings for the holiday season. Right now, save 50% on custom holiday cards and invitations, as well as custom photo gifts like mugs and calendars. Offer ends 12/16. Visit staples.com/print for more details. Have yourself a merry little holiday deal at Staples.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers win their third straight. They cruised past Utah to win by 32 at Crypto.com. The Lakers had 35 assists. Efficient game for LeBron, 17 points, 9 assists in 24 minutes. LeBron sat out the fourth quarter. The Lakers needed a blowout like this to give LeBron some valuable rest. He played 40 minutes in Sunday's win over Houston. The Lakers would need a well-rested LeBron tonight. They play Dallas at Crypto, 7 o'clock tip. The Clippers are back in action tonight. They're in San Antonio to play the Spurs again. The Clippers beat the Spurs by 25 on Monday. The top 4 schools in the college football playoff rankings: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and Washington. If the regular season ended today, these 4 schools would be in the playoffs to battle for the national championship. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, Black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any Black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
Move all the tables and chairs. We're gonna have us a good time tonight. Every time that we meet, we skip and we dip to the beat. Yeah. What in the world could be better than getting together? The last time we had a party, it ended when the sun came up. That's why your mama told you that you couldn't go out. Stay in the house.
That's Luther Vandross, and I am Tavis Smiley, and I'm delighted to have you tuned into our program today on this Thanksgiving Eve. What a great program it's been so far, celebrating, commemorating the life, legacy of JFK in that first hour. 60 years after his assassination. In our third hour, we'll be joined by Tiffany Haddish. We'll have some laughs and some good times in our third hour, again, as we head into this holiday weekend. But in this hour, a very serious subject matter. I've been trying to get to this for quite a while with a dear friend of mine. I should just start this hour by telling you I've known this guy for almost 40 years. I've loved him since the day I met him. We've done a lot of great work together, had all kinds of conversations, and just spent some good time together. And I thought of no one but him when it came to having this particular conversation, which is not going to be an easy conversation to have, but no one better than him, I think, to have it. So in this hour, as I promised, what makes you an anti-Semite, anti-Semitic, or guilty of trading in anti-Semitism? Is all criticism of Israel anti-Semitic? I don't think so. We'll see what he thinks. We'll be joined in this hour, for the hour. We are, in fact, joined, I should say, because he's live in studio, by Steve Leader, the senior rabbi of one of America's largest synagogues, the Wilshire Boulevard Temple here in L.A. I've been there many times, spoken there many times, love that facility. But this dialogue in this hour will be about why so many fellow citizens are being labeled and canceled these days for being so-called anti-Semitic. Indeed, just yesterday, amidst this Israel-Hamas conflict, Academy Award-winning actress and human rights activist Susan Sarandon was dropped by her talent agency, UTA, for comments that were deemed anti-Jewish at a pro-Palestine rally in New York City. We'll unpack that and a great deal more in this hour that we are joined by my friend and brother, the Rabbi Steve Leader. Steve, how are you, sir?
I'm well, Tavis. Couldn't be happier
It's good to see
be
you,
with
man.
you this morning.
No, it's good to see you, man. I thank you for your time, and I've been wanting to have this conversation. But again, these things aren't easy to talk about, and no one is better at this than you. So I wanted to invite you in. I'm glad you took an hour to come see me. Let me start with this before we get into that part of our conversation. There's news today, of course. Israel and Hamas have negotiated a hostage deal, so they're going to exchange these hostages. There's a 4-day ceasefire. But after that, as you well know, Bibi Netanyahu, who I once interviewed, has already promised bombs away. They're going to start this thing right back up again. Your thoughts?
I think there's a tiny handful of people who are qualified to opine about this ceasefire and the hostage exchange. It's actually a hostage-prisoner exchange. They're not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the people who made the deal. If I sat on the Israeli war cabinet, I would have an opinion about the wisdom of this ceasefire, but only a tiny handful of people know about it, Tavis. And this is one of the things that's so annoying is the nicest word I can use. Mm-hmm. Infuriating might be a better way to put it. About people who have opinions about things they know absolutely nothing about. I think there are times in life when you got to let the driver drive because they're the only one who really knows the entire landscape and situation. So I'm actually agnostic about this ceasefire. If everyone involved thinks it's best, I'm for it. Mm-hmm. If up until now people thought it was not for the best, people in the know, people whose lives and the lives of their loved ones depend on it, if they were against it, I was against it. I'm really agnostic about this because it's completely, out of my lane. And I don't think we bring anything positive to the conversation when we're speaking from a position of, frankly, total ignorance.
Mm-hmm. Here's what surprises me, and we're just getting started. Let me just get this out, and we'll let you respond when we come forward. I've known you, as I said, for almost 40 years. We've been the best of friends, and always will be until we take our last breath. And yet, I'm surprised to hear you say you are agnostic about this. And I'm surprised, Steve, because how can you be agnostic about anything that's saving lives? If only for 4 days you have a ceasefire where, to your point, hostages and prisoners are being exchanged. That's a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. Lives are going to be saved over the next 4 days. That's a beautiful thing. I'm not excited about the bombs away approach 4 days, 5 days from now, but I'm surprised to hear you say that where lives are going to be saved, where people are going to get their family members back, that you are agnostic about that. I want to probe that when we come forward.
No, I didn't say I'm agnostic about that.
You're agnostic about what? What did I miss?
I'm agnostic about whether or not this is the right thing to do in the larger context. I have no idea.
But you're talking about the ceasefire, though.
I'm talking about the ceasefire. Is it really ultimately going to save lives?
Right.
I don't know that, and you don't know that.
Let's talk about it. I guess, Steve, this is why we've been friends 40 years. We can do this and not choke each other.
And still be friends.
Yeah, and not choke each other to death. Because I'm not buying it just yet. But maybe he'll convince me when we come forward. You're listening to the Rabbi, Steve Leader, on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac perfected like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat intellect since 92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shout it, don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Feel it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bussin', truckin'. Cadillac, Cadillac, Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range on a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with SCHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
As veterans, we're no strangers to helping others.
That's what we were taught, service before self.
But we do have one question for the veterans listening.
When is the last time you reached out for help?
If you or someone you know needs resources, whether it's for stress, finances, employment, or mental health, don't wait. Reach out.
Find more information at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Hey, everything okay?
Yes, I'm fine.
Honey. Hey, I'm here for you. Tell me about school today.
When kids can't find the right words, music can help them sound it out. Talk to the kids in your life about their emotional well-being. Find tools and resources at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Only 1 in 5 people with autism are employed, despite many having the skill set and desire to work.
Maybe it's because employers don't know what kind of jobs they can do. Like, what about a programmer?
That's a job for someone with autism.
How about a healthcare worker?
Yep, that is too. People with autism can do a lot of different jobs, but often get overlooked due to outdated stigmas. Introducing WIN by Autism Speaks. We help businesses lead the way in inclusive hiring.
What about a ranch hand?
To learn more, go to autismspeaks.org/win.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Our guest is Rabbi Stephen J. Leader. He's written a bunch of books. I'll tell you about some of those later in this conversation because there are 2 or 3 of them that I would highly recommend you read. He's a brilliant, brilliant author, an amazing thinker, public intellectual, and more. And just a great guy. And I'm pleased to have him in studio talking about, as we will get to in a moment, what is an anti-Semite? What does it mean to be anti-Semitic? How do you get accused of, trading in anti-Semitism? So many people are just being canceled these days, and some of us just don't get it. Frankly, I don't get it. Why some of these folks are being canceled for expressing themselves. There's got to be a way to have this conversation. I don't like it. I'm totally opposed to this notion of cancel culture across the board. But certainly in a space like this, if you can't talk about something about which you agree, then what's the point? So we'll get to that later in this dialogue. But back to your point. So I want to be clear what you're saying you're agnostic about.
Yes. Okay. You want me to answer that question?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
When I said I was agnostic about the ceasefire and hostage exchange, what I mean by agnostic is no one could argue that it's going to be a beautiful thing, hopefully tomorrow, when we see the first kidnapped children come across the border into Israel. No one could argue that. My point about being agnostic is whether or not in the long run is it ultimately saving lives or not, on both sides or either side. And there are people who I think are qualified enough to make that bet, and they've made it. I'm not one of them. It's almost like, obviously, the order of magnitude is completely different, but was dropping the atomic bomb on Hiroshima life-saving ultimately? Maybe. I mean, that's why it was done. It was done to end the war faster, cause fewer deaths by, in the short term, causing more, which is sort of the opposite of this ceasefire. Who knows, really? And that doesn't make a person in favor of murder or in favor of killing or completely opposed to either of those things. All I'm saying is in this specific case, I trust the people on both sides who made this decision, that it would ultimately save lives, not just in the short run, but in the long run.
To your point about the persons on both sides, let me pivot for a second and we'll come right back. I've maintained, this audience knows that you got the wrong people on both sides at the table. Bibi Netanyahu, who I've interviewed again, is the wrong person. Hamas is clearly the wrong group. So it's hard for me to process a space like this that we find ourselves in where you got just the wrong people at the table.
Well, it's a failure of leadership all around. Yeah. And by the way, vis-a-vis Palestinians, let's be straight up about that. Palestinians have been the doormat of the Middle East for a century. And they deserve better. They deserve better from their own leaders who have failed again and again and again to make peace. They deserve better from their Arab brethren and surrounding Arab nations who, from everything I can determine, don't care at all about bettering or uplifting Palestinians. They deserve better from Israel, and they deserve better from us. Full stop. Now, here's the important word. However, that has nothing to do with Hamas and October 7th, 2023. Nothing. Because Hamas's mission has nothing to do with the betterment of the Palestinian people or what could have been in Gaza. Tavis, Gaza could have been another Singapore. It could have been a flourishing nation with self-determination and freedom and seaside resorts and desalination plants and solar farms and working farms and businesses and world-class universities and hospitals, etc. It could have been, had Hamas either not been elected or, when elected, chosen to do what was best for the people of Gaza. They chose otherwise. Instead of choosing what was best for the people of Gaza, they chose instead to do what was worse, what was worst for the people of Israel. And that was their decision, not Israel's decision. So we need to disambiguate the admittedly very complicated, very nuanced, very frustrating dynamics and issues between everyone in the world, really, and the people of Palestine or Palestinians. We cannot conflate that with Hamas and October 7th. Hamas's mission has nothing to do, as I said, with the betterment of Palestinians. Read Article 7 of the Hamas Charter, which says Hamas's mission is to murder Jews, not Israelis, Tavis. Jews. So, yeah, we've got the wrong people all around. I agree with you.
I hear your point loud and clear about conflation, and I agree with you. I agree with you on that wholeheartedly. You're going to press me in this hour, and I'm going to push you in this hour.
That's fine.
All right, so let me push you on two things. There are those, to your point earlier, that you trust those at the table to make a decision about whether or not this ceasefire for 4 days will ultimately save lives. I can guarantee you, I can give you one sure way to save lives. That Israel doesn't begin this bomb away campaign.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you assure that allowing Hamas to survive and rebuild and thrive ultimately will result in the saving of lives? I don't think we have any evidence to show that if Hamas is allowed to survive and thrive and rearm and do whatever it is they're going to do, I don't see any evidence that that's a life-saving decision.
So when does it end?
Well,
never.
Maybe never. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes, Tavis, well, let's put it this way. You and I were both Midwestern guys, and we were raised to believe that if you do the right thing, there's going to be a good outcome. And if you do the wrong thing, there's going to be a bad outcome. If you make the right decision, there's going to be a good result. If you make the wrong decision, a bad result. But I've learned as a rabbi over almost 40 years, living on the inside of other people's lives and in the world, sometimes you don't have a good choice and a bad choice. You have a bad choice and a worse choice. I think Golda Meir put it pretty well. She said, if we have to choose between being dead and pitied or alive with a bad reputation, we'll take the bad reputation. That's life. That's the Middle East. Now, here is a hopeful note that I think is really important. Why did Hamas choose to do this now? They chose to do it now because they wanted to sabotage the Israel-Saudi Arabia peace treaty that was very close to being completed. Why did they want to sabotage that? There are a lot of reasons, not the least of which is that Saudi Arabia is Sunni, not Shia. Saudi Arabia has the two holiest sites in all of Islam within its borders. 85% of the Arab world is Sunni. So had this agreement gone through, and I hope it will, it would have removed the religious component from the Middle East dynamic. It would have been a cold peace, okay, but a peace nevertheless with 85% of the Muslims in the world. So that they wanted to sabotage that deal. And why am I hopeful? I'm hopeful because we know that peace deals with Israel and Arab nations, it works. Okay, they work. Egypt worked. Jordan working. UAE working. Bahrain working. Sudan working. Morocco working. And it will work with Saudi Arabia too. You can make a deal with Israel. You can make peace. That is where the hope is. That is what will change the dynamic. You cannot make peace with Hamas.
So let me come to this. Let me ask a question first before I offer my point of view. So it is your view that for Israel to engage a ceasefire that is permanent, not just for 4 days, is a victory for Hamas? For them to engage a ceasefire?
Well, Israel will only... Are you talking about a permanent ceasefire?
Yes, permanent ceasefire.
Well, we know how permanent the ceasefire was, that it was existent on October 6th.
You got to start somewhere, though, Steve.
Okay.
You got to start somewhere. Though.
Well, we've started somewhere many times.
Yeah, and so you got to you got to do it again.
It doesn't end where you start.
Yeah.
So I'm just cautioning you when you say a complete and total everlasting ceasefire. I think that's a dream.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a realistic.
I mean a permanent ceasefire in this moment. I'm not naive.
Right now.
I'm not naive. I understand that something may happen 6 months from now.
Yes.
But I'm talking about a permanent ceasefire right now, which many in the world are calling for right now.
Well, they're not living 100 yards from Hamas terrorists.
But there are a lot of Israelis, though, who are
they're not calling
disagreeing with Bibi on his approach to this as well.
That's different than saying they're advocating that Israel stop everything now and allow Hamas to remain a threat.
Fair enough.
I don't believe that's what Israelis want.
I think you're right about that.
And so a ceasefire at this point, frankly, would make all of the things Israel has done to defend itself to date all for naught, frankly, because it's going to lead to just another round, another metastatic situation. So until Hamas is either gone or weakened to the point, much like ISIS, where they will no longer have the capability to massacre, murder, rape, behead, dismember, burn, and kidnap, I don't see how you're creating a lasting peace.
And there's no number of dead babies. There's no number of dead children that upends that frame for you. That upends that equation for you.
I think honestly the better question is there no end that upends that equation for Hamas? Israel is not the one hiding behind civilians. Israeli soldiers are not underneath hospitals, mosques, and elementary schools, firing rockets indiscriminately by the tens of thousands. So I think what's happening is tragic, but it's very important we point the finger in the right direction. You know, Tavis, this issue of this is going to be harsh to say, but I hope it will be clear and be seen as I intend it, which is coming from a place of disambiguated moral clarity, is the fact that somewhere between 6 and 8 million German Nazis and civilians died in World War II, but about 500,000 French and maybe 600,000 British died. So is that disparity? Does that mean the Nazis are the victims? So when you look at number of deaths on either side and choose that as your singular metric, your only variable when you consider morally what is right and what is wrong, you're making an enormous conflation and an enormous moral blind spot. Every death is tragic. No good human being could ever say anything otherwise. But again, there are ideologies in the world that are so dangerous and murderous and metastatic. And this is what always happens in those cases. This is the flipping of the script, Tavis. And I'm saying this to you as your friend and your brother. Don't do it. And what I mean by that is, this is the Hamas playbook. Murder. Now let's talk for a moment about disambiguating murder and killing. So many people have reached out to me and said, Rabbi, what about the sixth commandment, thou shalt not kill? What's Israel doing? My answer is, that's not what the sixth commandment says. The sixth commandment says in Hebrew, lo tirtzach, which is the biblical Hebrew word for murder. Thou shalt not murder. It does not say thou shalt not kill. They are not the same thing. There are two different words for that in Hebrew, just like there are in English, because they're not the same thing.
So you make a distinction between murdering and killing.
Correct.
And
so here's what
the difference is what? Tell me the difference right quick.
Well, the difference is murder is unprovoked and done out of aggression, not out of self-defense. Okay? If someone breaks into your home and shoots you in the head, that's murder. If someone's breaking into your home, about to shoot you in the head, and you shoot them, that's killing. Now, they both result in death, of course, but they are not the same thing. And so how does the script get flipped? Hamas murders, forces Israel to kill in self-defense, even kill innocent civilians behind whom and underneath whom the murderers are hiding, and then the murderer flips the script and claims the victim is the victimizer.
But there are two things in that regard. One is, watching my time here, let me just get this out, we'll continue on the other side.
Okay.
There are two responses to that. First is, while I accept your frame, it is the indiscriminate killing that people are concerned about these days. This killing, to use your word, I'm using your word.
Yes.
This killing seems indiscriminate, number one. And number two, you and I would no more want to be responsible for the things that Donald Trump says or does, because we didn't vote for him to become president, than Palestinians want to be held accountable for what Hamas does. And it's not fair to them.
It's not fair to Palestinians.
Even as we critique Hamas.
You may recall, it's not fair to them.
Yeah.
Nor was it fair to us.
That we had Donald Trump.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. But
yeah.
Imagine that Donald Trump is not just who he was and is, but imagine he had his finger on a button and pressed it. Okay, now what?
For some people, Donald Trump did that.
But I mean literally.
Well, he and I mean literally too. It wasn't reported in that way, but there are people whose lives were lost in COVID and beyond because Donald Trump didn't push a button or take your metaphor.
So,
hold that thought.
All right, let's come back.
You'll speak next.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, now we're talking. He's my friend. He's my friend and brother, believe it or not, and I love him, and there ain't nothing he can do about it. His name is Rabbi Steve Leader. You listen to him right now on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. The U.S. Supreme Court is rejecting an appeal by former Minneapolis police officer who killed George Floyd, who is black. That means Derek Chauvin's second-degree murder conviction and sentence will be upheld. Chauvin's legal team tried to argue that he was denied a fair trial due to prejudice and publicity surrounding the case. The now 47-year-old is currently serving a 21-year sentence in Arizona. Snoop Dogg, who is black, isn't quitting marijuana after all. The rapper, known for his love of cannabis, posted a video on Monday announcing his partnership with Solo Stove, a smokeless fire pit brand. This comes after Snoop posted late last week that he was giving up smoke and asked fans to respect his privacy. The rapper will serve as the official spokesman for the brand. That's the latest. I'm Tyreek Wynn on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
A motorcycle accident in Willowbrook on the 105 eastbound at Wilmington Avenue, down in the carpool lane with slowing coming off the 110. In Sylmar, very heavy on that 5 northbound drive coming away from the 210 up to Lyons Avenue. And you've got delays on the 5 southbound drive with a wreck working at Fletcher Drive in your right lane. Traffic slowing there from Western Avenue.
Staples Holiday Deals mean amazing savings for the holiday season. Right now, save 50% on custom holiday cards and invitations, as well as custom photo gifts like mugs and calendars. Offer ends 12/16. Visit staples.com/print for more details. Have yourself a merry little holiday deal at Staples.
This Black Friday Mattress Firm is your sure bet. This Friday until noon, get a queen mattress for just $89.99. Don't miss this exclusive doorbuster. Available for in-store pickup only while supplies last. Hurry in and save at Mattress Firm's Black Friday sale.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. The Lakers win their third straight. They cruised past Utah to win by 32 at Crypto.com. The Lakers had 35 assists. A fishing game for LeBron, 17 points, 9 assists in 24 minutes. LeBron sat out the fourth quarter. The Lakers needed a blowout like this to give LeBron some valuable rest. He played 40 minutes in Sunday's win over Houston. The Lakers will need a well-rested LeBron tonight. They play Dallas at Crypto, 7 o'clock tip. The Clippers are back in action tonight. They're in San Antonio to play the Spurs again. The Clippers beat the Spurs by 25 on Monday. The top 4 schools in the college football playoff rankings: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and Washington. If the regular season ended today, these 4 schools would be in the playoffs to battle for the national championship. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Anyone can choose to make a difference. You can help people succeed, rebuild after disasters, protect the environment, or feed the hungry. Not only will you make a difference for others, but for yourself. You can earn money for college, learn career skills, and make friendships that last a lifetime. Make a difference. Choose your future. Choose AmeriCorps.
Is your eyesight changing?
I can't read this anymore.
Don't lose hope. People just like you are working every day using Braille, screen magnification, speech technology, and other tools and blindness skills. Your eyesight may have changed, but your goals, they don't have to. We can help. Visit us on the web at blind.org. The National Federation of the Blind. Live the life you want.
Now. We tend not to think about now. We dream about tomorrow, relive yesterday. But right now in front of us is victory over cancer. Right now, cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to better treatments and saving lives. Victory over cancer is there for the taking by you, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. Learn more at v.org.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like your style, though.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
It does indeed. I knew an hour wasn't going to be enough time with Steve Leader to unpack these issues. It's complicated. If they ain't figured it out in centuries, we ain't going to figure it out in an hour. But
well, it isn't complicated.
Yeah. I know where you're going. Go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say it. I see it coming.
I think October 7th and Hamas is not complicated at all. I think when you conflate it with things that are complicated, you're also disguising the truth. You know, there's this old Yiddish expression I love, which is a half-truth is a whole lie. Mm-hmm. And so when you conflate something so clearly
that's a
wrong,
great line,
isn't it?
It's a great line.
When you conflate something so clearly wrong with things that are more nuanced and complex, you're turning it into a half-truth.
Yeah. Two questions I raised earlier that I want you to respond to right quick. And we got to get to this anti-Semite thing. That's a whole other issue.
Yep.
Do you feel at all for those Palestinians who didn't vote for Hamas 16 years ago? We can call them thugs all day long, and I wouldn't argue that.
Hamas.
Yeah, Hamas.
You can call thugs.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. We can call Hamas thugs. But what about those Palestinians though who didn't vote for them, who are now feeling like these young people weren't even born then? Some of them were not.
Correct.
And they feel like they're being punished for this.
They're being punished for Hamas's choices and decisions. They are the victims of Hamas. Hamas is hiding beneath them and behind them. Hamas chose, rather than to build a beautiful nation. You know, this business about occupation is more conflation and nonsense. There hasn't been a Jew living in Gaza since 2005. How is this occupation? Hamas made a choice to make their mission dead Jews instead of a thriving state for Palestinians. That was their decision. I feel for those innocent Palestinians. I feel for innocent people living under the thumb of a cartel in Central America. I feel for all of them. But that doesn't make Hamas Israel's fault.
I don't want to go point for point with you on this. We don't have time for that. But for those who use the word occupation, the definition of that in part would be Israel indiscriminately pushing further and further, deeper and deeper into the West Bank, number one.
I agree.
That's a problem.
Yes.
Number two, you know, Jimmy Carter used the phrase, got in trouble years ago, apartheid is the world's largest open-air prison. They can't move freely.
Okay, let's
and in
stop
moments
there.
like this, the electricity.
Let's stop there.
I'm just saying that's the answer to the occupation question that you ask. Yeah.
No, they're not the same thing. Occupation has nothing to do with Gaza. Does it have something to do with the West Bank? Yeah. It has nothing to do with Gaza. And you want to say Gaza is the world's largest outdoor prison? I agree with you. Mm-hmm. It is. But Hamas is the prison warden. And by the way, Egypt has the keys to the front gate. You know, there are two countries with borders with Gaza. Israel is one of them. The other is Egypt. Their border has been closed for more than a decade. Now, let me ask you something, Tavis. If Israel's border is mostly closed, originally it wasn't, there was so much hope, and still about 30,000 Palestinians, Gazans, worked in Israel every day.
Mm-hmm.
Now we find out some of them were mapping out the kibbutzim so that the murderers would have an easier time of it. It was still the right thing to do. But when Israel closes its border with Gaza and Egypt closes its border with Gaza, maybe the problem is not Israel and Egypt. Maybe the problem is in Gaza. And furthermore, let's just accept other people's view that it is the biggest outdoor prison in the world.
Mm-hmm.
When someone gets out of prison, are they entitled to rape and slaughter and cut off women's breasts and gouge out people's eyes and dismember children in front of their parents like butchers? Let's just even accept the premise, which I don't, but people do. When someone walks out of prison, does that give them the right? It does not. And furthermore, it is dehumanizing to Palestinians, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I am, and to Hamas, because to say, well, what can you expect? What else could you expect from them? Is to dehumanize them. That's calling them animals. And it's robbing them of agency. They have agency, Tavis. They chose to do this.
I had a guest on this program yesterday. First of all, for starters, you know that I'm a King student. I've written a book about King, as you know. He's my hero. You know all of that.
I thought I was your hero.
You and King. Maybe not in that order, but you and King. I had a guest on this program yesterday who said something very profound. And this is Kingian to the core.
Mm-hmm.
That the answer to violence is not even nonviolence. It certainly isn't counter-violence. It's anti-violence. That's the answer to nonviolence, anti-violence.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed BB one time, as I mentioned earlier, and I asked him whether he'd ever considered the Kingian notion of nonviolence as a possibility in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he smirked at me, he laughed at me, and then he and I went at it. And we went at it because when I quoted Dr. King, BB looked at me in the face and said, King didn't know Hamas. King didn't know Hezbollah. And you know where I went.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot be serious with that kind of response, with what King was up against in this country and black folk were up against. Don't give me that nonsense, BB. He was prime minister. I try to be respectful, but we went at it. I'm asking you the same question I asked BB. Why can't nonviolence or anti-violence rather than counter-violence be an answer to what's happening in the Middle East?
Because it's suicide.
It worked in this country. Black people showed the world that it can work in this country.
I'm sorry,
Steve.
This country, as unjust and racist as
don't
it
say
was
it, Steve. Don't
and
say it,
is.
Steve. Steve, don't say it. Don't say that.
Don't say what?
What you're about to say.
You
Please don't say what you're
about
about
to
say.
say.
I'm not. Just don't say what I think you're about to say.
Let me put it. Okay, I'm going to do it anyway.
Go ahead and do it. Anyway. You're my friend, but go ahead.
Hezbollah has 150,000 guided missiles that can reach all of Israel.
Steve, you're doing it. You're doing it. Don't
Tavis,
do that.
let me finish.
Go ahead.
Okay?
Go ahead.
And it is an existential threat to half the Jews in the world in the blink of an eye. So look, an existential threat not just to freedom, rights, etc., which is horrible. Literally, Iran has a finger on a button that can destroy half the Jews in the world, about 7 million
and
people.
What do you think the Klan was for black, and not just the Klan, the government?
Yes.
What do you think that was for black folk in this country, Steve? It was the same exact thing. That's why I said, please don't do that.
But in your case, first of all, in that case, I don't believe that nonviolence or anti-violence was a certain road to suicide for black people. If it was, I'd be very interested. Well, you know King as well as anyone. If it meant suicide for black people in America, would King have remained in favor of an anti-violent approach? Because that is a differentiator in this case. Suicide. Look, if if Hezbollah laid down its weapons tomorrow, there would be peace tomorrow. If Israel laid down its weapons, there would be murder and slaughter.
I'm not sure about
tomorrow.
That. I'm not sure about that.
Oh my goodness!
I'm not sure about that. I know it sounds strange to say that, but that's exactly that is the lesson.
Otherwise.
Prove
otherwise in the Middle East.
Exhibit A is the civil rights movement.
No.
That's Exhibit A.
No, it's a different neighborhood, my friend.
Oh,
prove
Steve.
otherwise in the Middle East.
People are people. People are people, Steve.
If people are people, Tavis, then there wouldn't be any of the friction points in the world if we had a sense of common humanity. We do not in the Middle East. We do not.
And all I'm saying is we didn't have that in this country either. I digress. When we come forward, Steve gets the next word. We'll talk specifically about the anti-Semitism thing. We've got to get to that. Our guest is Rabbi Stephen Leader. Love this guy. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
From Lamert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, can potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
We could do this for hours, Steve.
I hope we do.
If we had hours. And that ain't even why I had you on. We've talked about Israel and Hamas because there's breaking news today, of course, about this 4-day ceasefire that will happen after this exchange takes place. So that's how we started, and we spent 50 minutes talking about that. Right. In the 10 that we have left,
go ahead.
I want to focus. I just want this audience, and I want, as my friend, as your friend rather, I want to hear from you your take on people being canceled for expressing themselves and where the line is between disagreeing with Israel politically and having a right to do that, as Israelis do inside of Israel.
Yes, of course.
And being called an anti-Semite or anti-Semitic or being accused of trading in anti-Semitism. Where is that line?
Well, I don't want to be evasive, but I have to quote the great Justice Potter Stewart here. Okay. For Jews, it was, Potter Stewart was asked to define obscenity for the Supreme Court.
I remember this, yeah.
And, his answer was, I can't define it, but I know when I see it.
I know when I see it, exactly.
And I would say it's very much like racism for blacks, right? Mm-hmm. Where's the line, Tavis? Mm-hmm. Well, you can't quite define it, but you sure know when you feel it or when you see it.
But that can be subjective. That can be really subjective, though.
It is subjective.
Right.
So that's number one. We have to accept that.
I accept it.
Secondly, I would say anything or anyone who justifies hatred, I call it Jew hatred, not anti-Semitism, Jew hatred, or is a Jew hater themselves, and they're applying a different standard to Jews and Israel than they have applied to anyone else anywhere in the world, that's an indicator, my friend, that this is not about some moral high road. It's about hating Jews. For example, where were the marches when Assad gassed Palestinians in Syria by the tens of thousands? Where were the marches? Where were they? Where were the marches in this country when Iran was imprisoning, torturing, and executing women for showing their hair in public? Where were the marches? Where were they? Where were the marches when Yemen has already kicked out about 300,000 or 400,000 Afghani refugees, some of whom have been there for 3 generations, and their plan is to expel 1.7 million. Where are the marches?
The response wasn't as intense. I take your point. It wasn't as intense. Nowhere near. I take your point.
Yeah. Nowhere near. Yeah. And so it indicates to me and to many others
that it's about Jews.
This is about something other than. And it's about hating Jews, and which I think, now, I'm not going to be popular with some of your listeners right now, but you and I, we're brothers. We tell the truth as we see it. And in America, I think a lot of these kids marching on these college campuses, they couldn't find Gaza on a map. They're graduates of the University of TikTok, okay? They don't know. But they're marching, okay? And I really believe that some of this is about hatred of white privilege. And if you want to hate white privilege, you can do it with a free pass in America if it's about Jews, because most people don't care.
Our remaining moments for Steve Leader when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
You can do it all by yourself, baby girl. What's your name? Let me talk to you. Let me buy you a drink.
Spilled your drink? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand. So you can get back to your night. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
At Ulta Beauty's Black Friday sale, I get up to 50% off all week long on over 275 can't-miss deals. Starting November 19th, shop 40% off stunning Morphe eyeshadow palettes and 50% off select Tula skincare products. Plus, starting Tuesday, shop $12 mascaras from brands like Tarte, Benefit, and Fenty, and $12 lippies from brands like Lancome and Kylie Cosmetics. Hurry in store or place your online pickup order today. Ulta Beauty, the possibilities are beautiful.
Hey, it's Amanda, and a little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A nugget trays is that they're so easy for the holidays. They're warm and flavorful. It's always a crowd pleaser. When I put down a nugget tray, everyone is happy.
Hey, this is Brian, and the little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A nugget trays is the joy that it brings to me and everybody around me during the holidays. They're warm, juicy, and delicious.
Cater the holidays with Chick-fil-A today. Available on the Chick-fil-A app. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
Got 3 minutes left to go. Wish I had 2 more hours to do this, but we got Tiffany Haddish coming up in at the top of the next hour. Look forward to that. So we're going to do a dramatically different show the next hour that we've done in this hour. But I want to just mention Steve Leader is brilliant and thoughtful, and even if you don't agree with everything Steve said, that's okay. We've been friends 40 years, and we don't agree on everything. But I love his truth. I love his courage. I love his expression, and I love his books. And I want to just mention a few of them. More Beautiful Than Before is an amazing book. You have to get this book, More Beautiful Than Before. For You When I Am Gone, great book. And the third I want to mention is The Beauty of What Remains. They're all amazing books, bestsellers, many of them, but people have been so empowered by his written work. Say nothing of his sermons every week at the Worship Boulevard Temple here in L.A., but More Beautiful Than Before, For You When I Am Gone, The Beauty of What Remains. All these books available wherever you get your books. And his name is spelled Leader, L-E-D-E-R. Stephen Z. I always have that Z. Zane.
That's
Leader.
Right. That's right.
But I'll give you the last word. We got 2 minutes. There's no question. Just it's the holiday season. It's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Last word to you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, and from my heart, I want to say on air what I said to you a minute ago off air, which is thank you.
You are welcome.
And I mean that not only for being my friend and for what you do in the world, but thank you for being true to who you are and your mission by inviting me to speak with you today about these very difficult topics. There's an old story that comes to mind, which is these two guys drinking in a bar, and one of them puts his arms around the other and says, "Oh, I love you so much." And the other says, "How can you say you love me when you don't know what hurts me?" Mm-hmm. And today's been an exploration of what hurts on all sides, yours, mm-hmm. mine, and people we don't know 10,000 miles away. Yeah. And one of the things I've always been grateful for, and particularly grateful for, is my friendship with you over all these years. And I'm going to offer a counterintuitive Thanksgiving idea. Mm-hmm. Generally, we go around the table, we say thank you for the blessings in our life and all the things we have. Let's think, all of us around our tables this Thanksgiving, about the things we have we want to get rid of. Mm. Let's rid ourselves of arrogance and pettiness and hatred and half-truths and envy and bitterness. So this Thanksgiving, let's not just count our blessings for what we have. Let's think about what we have we want to shed and rid ourselves of.
And that's why he's brilliant, and that's why they love him at the Worship Boulevard Temple. one of the nation's largest synagogues, and that's why he's written these books that people gobble up because he has so much wisdom to share. I'm out of time. Tiffany Haddish is standing by for this third hour. Steve, as I said at the top, I love you, and there ain't nothing you can do about it.
I love you like a fat boy loves cake.
There you go. More Tavis Smiley. Tiffany, and Tiffany's the comedian, not you. More Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. The U.S. Supreme Court is rejecting an appeal by former Minneapolis police officer who killed George Floyd, who is black. That means Derek Chauvin's second-degree murder conviction and sentence will be upheld. Chauvin's legal team tried to argue that he was denied a fair trial due to prejudice and publicity surrounding the case. The now 47